recording. You know, as it's so un-Jewish, but in the Zoom era, we try to begin on time, both because you're all here and people will join as they will, but also because Peter's time is somewhat limited. We want to respect that. He has 2 birthdays in his family today, and it's dinner time in Israel. So I just want to quickly introduce someone who I know several of you have met. Peter was one of the founders, actually the co-founder of Keshet Israel Tours, the best educational touring company that I've ever encountered dealing with Israel. And several of our tours from Temple Bethel were done in association with Peter, who was our guide. So anyone who was on a Bethel tour, especially in the early 2000s, you would have met Peter. But even later on, especially our last tour, I see a few people who were on from there. Just a couple of years ago, Peter's doing a lot of private work, and we joined up together when we visited. If you remember, we went up to the border in Lebanon, where we planted a tree, and we watched as Hezbollah was watching us on the other side of the fence, and all of us felt so secure and safe. Well, Peter was part of that too, so you might remember him from there. But most of all, we just remember him as a good friend who has roots in this region and understands Americans. And
you have to start over again.
Anyway,
give me a chance to join meeting.
Hold on. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Peter now. And we'll maybe have questions at the end, or however you want to do that, Peter.
Okay, I'll try to leave some time. First of all, such a thrill to be with you, Rabbi Hammerman. Josh, between us and Temple Bethel once again. Many of you know I'm originally from the New York area. I grew up in Metni region of USY and was very active. My first travel to Israel was through USY as a teenager in 1960. Should I admit it? Wow, 1963. Those of you who want to do the math, go right ahead. Yeah, 57 years ago. Wow, that is scary. So made Aliyah with our family in 1990. I mentioned to Josh a few moments ago, our 2 teenage sons are now both parents of children themselves, as was our teenage daughter back in 1990. 2 of our grandsons are now in the Army. They're both turned 20 this year and are serving Israel. All of our family is here. Some of you know Shira, and a lot of you have met Debbie on the trips. Today is Debbie's birthday. And so our whole family, as it turned out, this was the only day as we were figuring out when to be able to get the family in a COVID-sensitive, permitted way. So they're all outside. It's a lovely day in Israel today. They're all outside in our backyard, distancing with masks, and we're doing a barbecue. Nobody's in the house. Ah, there we are. Look at that. Here I am. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. Josh, am I a co-host now?
You are a co-host, and you are spotlighted.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, let's see how well I set this up. All right? This is not the presentation. This is the preliminary presentation. Let's see if it works. Well, it's supposed to play. Oh my gosh, come on. It worked before, but of course it never works when it's supposed to work, right? All right, let me try one more time. And if not, we'll move on. But there was a recent song in Israel called Welcome to Israel. And if it doesn't work, we're just going to move on. I don't know why it's not playing. All right, I don't know what I lost, but okay. Forget it. I'm not going to try it. We'll come back.
929. 929.
What's that?
929.
It's okay. I think I'm gonna mute everybody except Peter.
Okay,
So
that'd be good.
Yourself. Here we go.
Is somebody suggesting Y29?
No,
How do I get back to my PowerPoint screen? All right, I don't know why this is happening, but okay, I'm gonna go a different direction. Let's go to here. No, yeah, no. Where is my, all right, let's try this. All right, we'll do it this way. Maybe I'll be able to get back to the other one later. So what I would like to do Actually, I'll tell you what was on PowerPoint. I had the Temple Bethel logo. I don't know if you caught that for the moment.
I'm
With
okay.
an audio of a song which is very, very popular in Israel now called Welcome to Israel. And I also had something about my website, which I'm going to talk to you about at the end today. But what I would like to
watch
do,
it. I said, well, I've seen all that. She said, no, watch it, watch it. So
Okay,
I
wait.
think we're going to mute everybody.
I'm going to mute everyone.
I'm
Okay.
today.
We're all muted. Peter, unmute yourself now.
There we go. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what I said is I had a lovely 2-slide PowerPoint intro with a lovely song against the backdrop of the Bethel logo. The song was a song which is very popular in Israel today. Welcome to Israel. It is much more catchy than what I'm singing now. And then the logo for my website, which I'm going to talk to you about at the end. But what I would like to do with you today, I was thinking, what can I do to help engage you from 6,000 miles away in Israel? Now, the truth is Rabbi Hammerman's already helping us because look where he's sitting. If you can see him, he's here. I'm in my, our den, and I kind of turned my laptop around for better lighting. But here in my den, which is right outside the city, which is the city of Efrat, I thought, wow, Book of Genesis, we're in the middle of the narratives of the patriarchs and the matriarchs. What would be better for an engaging tiyul or trip in this time period than a stroll along what is known as the route of the patriarchs? So that's what we're about to do. We're going to walk together. I want to mute this. Okay, and we're going to be walking together. You know what I should have done? I should have put on the same shirt because obviously this is pre-filmed. We're going to be walking together along what is known as the route of the patriarchs. So I want to show you on a map what we're going to be doing over the next half hour or so along this road. And that's right over here. We'll come back to some of those in a minute. Let's pull this map up before we start our walk. So what is the route of the patriarchs? The route of the patriarchs is the route which we believe that Abraham and Sarah, and of course Yitzchak and Rivka, whom we read about in last week's Torah reading just yesterday, and Jacob and his wives Leah and Rachel walked on when they came into the land of Israel. How many years ago? Anybody? You can unmute for this one. How many years ago are we talking about? 1,000? Much more. 2,000? Almost twice as much. About 3,800 years ago, 1800 BCE, when Abraham and Sarah first came in, and they entered, if you can see my arrow, into the city of what was called then Shechem or Nablus. We're going to read about Shechem again in a few weeks. It's the story where the place where the Dinah story takes place. And they continued to the city of Bethel, which is where Abraham first built an altar to God back in Parshat Lech Lecha 3 weeks ago, the Torah reading of 3 weeks ago. We're going to read about it actually next Saturday, that Jacob, when he flees from Esau, lands momentarily in Bethel. Oh, wait, does that name ring a bell? In Bethel. And he had his famous dream of angels going up and down ladders here. The next city along is Bethlehem. Jerusalem is not, I mean, it's on the path, but doesn't figure in the narrative at this point, except for the story of the binding of Isaac. Bethlehem, Hebron, where Abraham 2 weeks ago in the Torah reading bought the burial plot for Sarah, and himself is buried there as well. And finally, Beersheba, where the patriarchs and matriarchs lived. So we have this road, which today is called by modern historians and archaeologists, the pathway of the patriarchs. Efrat is this section right over here, just south of Bethlehem. And we're going to be walking along a section of the path of the patriarchs just outside of Efrat, literally a few moments from my home. So I think probably the first question, I'm going to come back to that picture. I don't want you to look at it. Close your eyes. That's for later. The first picture that I want to come to, we'll walk a little bit along this road, and we'll begin to answer the question, what makes us think, or what gives us even more than that, the almost near certainty that this is an ancient road. And so we come to this road, by the way, which has been developed by the local tourism department of what's known Gush Etzion. We're going to rerun that little clip over again for a second because I couldn't get to my stop button. And we're going to come to the first bit of evidence that this is an ancient road. And that's that pillar which you see in front of us. Some of you might be able to see the sign. It's a dirt road, as you see, but it's easily passable. Can see that we are looking at what is called a Roman milestone. It's marked Roman milestone number 12. And it is along the road, which we now understand must have been a major Roman road. Roman period from Pompeii around 60 BCE to the beginning of the Byzantine period, which is in the 4th century, spanning the end of the period known as the Second Temple period, spanning the destruction of the temple, the Bar Kokhba revolt, which we'll talk about perhaps in a little while. So this is a Roman milestone along the road. And I must tell you something that I think, being on the East Coast, you'll probably identify with this. You know that I'm from New York originally, but I was the principal of the Beth Tfilah School in Baltimore for 4 years before making Aliyah. Yet our family was in New York. This Shabbat, we actually drove, because Avi's bar mitzvah was back in New York. We had only been out of New York a few months, so we had the bar mitzvah back in the shul where he had grown up. We drove up the New Jersey Turnpike many, many times during the years that I was in Baltimore for family events, whatever. For Thanksgiving every year we came up the Turnpike to New York. And for me, what made the trip much more bearable, especially when we came at night and everybody had fallen asleep, was to watch the mileage markers along the New Jersey Turnpike. I was driving the length of the Turnpike. We were getting on like at about 180, I think, 118, which was the southern end after the Delaware Memorial Bridge. And I would see 116, 100, 94, 82. And I kind of would mark the trip by the mileage posts. Well, the concept of a milestone, the word we use today, goes back to Roman times. And here is a Roman milestone along the Derech Avot. We presume that if this was a major road during Roman times, that it must have well been a major road during previous times. Now, what's previous times? Well, previous times would take us back to the Second Temple, preceded by the First Temple period, preceded by the period of King David, preceded by the period of the Matriarchs and Patriarchs. And so we are now walking along the road, which we believe with almost tremendous certainty was indeed the road known then and today as the Derech HaAvot. Let me see if I can get that sign a little bit closer before we do this one. Here we are. Here's the sign. So we are walking on the road, which if you can read the Hebrew is called Derech HaAvot, the pathway of the patriarchs, Atar Histori, an historic site, Tayelet Gush Etzion, a promenade in this area known as Gush Etzion, developed by our local regional council, this 2-mile walk. So let's walk a little bit further, and we come now to one of the, I think, most exciting features along this road. So here we are, we'll go up the steps. As soon as the video kicks in, there we are. So join me, let's walk up the steps together to one of the most exciting finds along this road. You notice it's been developed, this shed for shade has been also part of the development of the area. And we have another sign identifying it, and we come and we turn around, and there, a little bit further, is the entrance to, anybody? An ancient ritual bath, or an ancient mikveh in Hebrew. Now, if you're familiar with modern mikvehs, this looks a bit different. And the major difference is really in the next set of pictures. Because when this came to light, I would say about 10 or 15 years ago in the archaeology, it was the first of a number of mikvehs that had been discovered in and around Jerusalem. And it had a rather interesting feature, which you see rather clearly in this particular video. We're going to walk down one way. It is not 2 separate baths. All right. Let's get the volume. I don't want the volume. It is 1 bath. But if you look, I'm going to turn. And it is 1 mikveh with 2 entrances. And there's the other side, and we can turn around and go up the other side. I'm going to pause on this for a moment because this gave the historians and the archaeologists a moment to think for a moment. And they finally came to an understanding of what's happening here on the basis of something in the Mishnah. Now, I know you're familiar with the rabbinic literature. Mishnah is 2nd century rabbinic literature developed here in the land of Israel. And the Mishnah has the following statement, which I will now pull up on the screen. And let's see how this helps us shed light. It's a Mishnah in a section called Shkalim, which, well, I don't want to get into the whole context, but it says as follows. Kol hakelim, all of the utensils, hanimtsaim, which are found b'Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. I'm going to read this as in the greater Jerusalem area. All utensils found in the greater Jerusalem area, derech yirida levet hatfilah, on the way down into the bet tfilah, tefillah with a tet, with a taf, not a tet, is a place of immersion, a mikveh, tmeim, are impure. Utensils found on the way in are impure. Derech aliyah, on the way of going up out of the mikveh, tohorin, are pure. And what are we talking about? So all of a sudden we begin to understand that there must have been a clear way of identifying in ancient times the difference between going into the mikveh and coming out of the mikveh. And here you see it very clearly in this ancient mikveh from the time period of late Second Temple, where one way goes down, let's assume the right-hand side, a person who is still tameh, ritually impure, about to immerse for ritual purity, goes down the right, dunks, comes back up the left. First of all, this prevents somebody impure now bumping into somebody who's already gone purification and forcing him to get back online and go through again. Second of all, we now understand the Mishnah, because the Mishnah says that if somebody on the way in had put down a utensil on the way in, maybe perhaps intending to purify the utensil as well, as was the custom in ancient times, by immersing it in the waters of the mikveh, if you find the utensil on the way down, you presume he never made it in. And therefore, the legal presumption is that the utensil is still impure. If, on the other hand, you find it on the steps on the way out, then you can presume the other version that the utensil has been dipped and the utensil is pure. But what the Mishnah teaches us is that there was a clear separation between the way in and the way out, and modern archaeology has all of a sudden made that come alive to us. This is just one such find. We might have seen some of them on the southern wall excavations, because there are the other mikvahs from the same time period. I always think that, why here? 8 or 9 miles from Jerusalem, possibly. And again, I go back to my New Jersey Turnpike experiences, that I used to gas up in Jersey before going to New York. Why? Because the gas was cheaper in Jersey. I presume it is today as well. And so I would gas up in Jersey rather than pay New York prices. I can imagine a sign on the road, do your mikveh here. Why wait on all the long lines in Jerusalem and pay Jerusalem prices? Whatever it is, we know that during Second Temple times, pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem would have dunked in this mikveh, or could have dunked in this mikveh on their journey. Something else I want to show you along this way. Let me go back to here, because as we start walking along, first we see the beautiful area. Now just kind of picture, this is what the patriarchs and matriarchs looked at. But as we walk along, we come along a lot of different types of vegetation, including the one that I'm going to stop at now on the left-hand side. Let's get a little bit closer and see if we can identify it. Anybody? It's a fig tree. All right, figs are one of the species that the Torah tells us are found in the land of Israel. It's a land of wheat and barley and figs and pomegranates. Well, here's a fig tree. There are quite a few fig trees. There's a ripe fig over here. But of course, encountering a fig tree along the pathway of the patriarchs brings me to another story from the book of Genesis, which we read only a few weeks ago, actually at the beginning of our whole journey into the beginning of reading the Torah, again after Simchat Torah, Breshit Perek Yud Gimel. It's chapter, this is not the one I wanted, 1 second. It's chapter 3, which was the giveaway to me. Let me find it. Here we are. Breshit chapter 3. There we go. Okay. It's Breshit chapter 3, which is in the first reading on Shabbat after Simchat Torah. We begin reading the Torah anew. And it's our first encounter in the Bible with a fig tree. What's the story? So it takes us back to Adam and Eve, the first man and women in the Garden of Eden, this perfect supermarket where God says you can eat everything except that one item on that one tree, which is off limits. It's called the Eitz Hadat Tov Ra, the tree of knowledge, good and evil. That you cannot touch, says God to Adam and Eve. Of course, you know the story. The snake convinces Eve to eat it. Eve convinces Adam to eat it. And so when the woman saw the fruit was good, she gave it to her husband. And verse 7, then the eyes of both of them were open. Remember, this is the tree of knowledge. They now have a newly discovered knowledge. What do they discover? They were naked. So they sewed themselves clothing of fig leaves. They made for themselves clothing to cover their newly discovered nakedness. And yet, if you look just a little bit further on, if we jump from verse 7 down to verse 21, God makes for them garments of skin, garments of leather, and clothes them. So I heard a rather cute explanation for this at a place called Ne'ot Kedumim a number of years ago, which is the Biblical Nature Reserve in Israel. Here's Adam and Eve in their new clothing, covering up their nakedness, newly discovered. But take a look at a fig leaf for a moment. Here's a fig leaf. It doesn't quite show how large it is in this particular picture, but what Adam and Eve didn't realize in making themselves clothing of fig leaves is that within a short time, what would happen to their fig leaves? Whoops. So they didn't really have terribly effective clothing, and therefore, says the verse, that God made for them clothing of leather. Well, you want to cover your nakedness, do it in an effective way. Put on some leather garments instead, because the fig leaves aren't going to last very long. There's another tree which we come upon as we walk along this road. Let me see if I can find that video. Probably, I don't film these in order, but Google puts them in the order I film them, so that they're not in the order I want them. And here's the other tree I want. So let's look a little bit further. And by the way, as we're walking, look out at the view that Adam and Sarah, that Abraham and Sarah had, that Jacob and Rebekah had, Jacob and Leah and Rachel had, that Isaac and Rebekah had. And now we come to another tree. It's not one of the species mentioned in the 7 species that are indigenous and native to the land of Israel, but nevertheless a tree that Israel is quite famous for. Again, anybody can able to recognize it. I took this picture specifically so you could catch some of the dried fruit that are still hanging on the tree from last season. This is an almond tree. An almond tree. And there are quite a few almond trees along this pathway of the patriarchs as well. The almond tree is a very special tree in the land of Israel. And now I'm going to go back to my upbringing in the synagogue. I'm sure many of you have heard of Rabbi Josh. I'm sure you know Temple B'nai Jeshurun, correct? On the west side. So I grew up in B'nai Jeshurun. I was bar mitzvahed by Rabbi Israel Goldstein. The late Rabbi Israel Goldstein was a giant of the conservative movement back in the 40s and the 50s. Today, actually, I teach on the Ramah Tri program on the Israel Goldstein campus in Jerusalem. And I get a chill when I go in there because there are probably not too many people on that campus that could say they personally know Israel Goldstein. But I remember growing up in the Hebrew school in B'nai Jeshurun, which is 88th, 89th and West End Avenue in Manhattan. And one of the things that kind of stuck with me from my Hebrew school days were the song that we would sing in January about the Shkediya. Shkediya porachat, the almond tree is blossoming. What am I doing singing a song in the middle of snow and cold about blossoming almond trees? Well, it's very clear we were taught, because in the land of Israel, and I want you to remember that, because I guess early in my life, I'm connecting with the land of Israel. In the land of Israel, in January, this year it's January 27th, is the holiday known as Tu B'Shvat, or the blossoming of the trees, celebrating the blossoming of the first tree that blossoms each year. in January. This year it says January 27th. Next year it's even earlier. It's like January 17th. Because the Jewish calendar isn't always in sync with the solar calendar. And that tree is the almond tree. Now, I must admit, this picture was probably taken about 6 weeks ago. But if I were to come back to the same spot in about 10 weeks, January 27th, but 8 weeks, 10 weeks, take a look at what the almond tree will look like. This is January in the land of Israel. Mid-January, late January, sometimes early February, and amazingly, all of a sudden, only weeks after winter seems to have begun, with Hanukkah not so long behind us, we celebrate the beginning of the first taste of spring, which, although most of the trees are still weeks away from beginning to their blossoming, the almond tree is the harbinger of the spring yet to come. Now, this too has a rather interesting biblical reference, which I want to share with you. So let's go back to some verses from the Bible. And now I want to come over here to this set of passages. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1. Those of you might know, some of you might know that Jeremiah is the prophet who wrote the book of Eicha, Lamentations. He was a very late prophet. He witnessed firsthand the destruction of the first temple, and he wrote the book that we read on Tisha B'Av, in which we commemorate that day. Actually, Josh, you might remember we did a Temple Bethel tour, which overlapped Tisha B'Av. We were together on a Tisha B'Av, I'm quite certain. And Tisha B'Av, of course, we read the Eicha, but there's also the book of Jeremiah, which is one of the books of the prophets, in which Jeremiah warns the Jewish people of the upcoming doom. Look at the term. Now remember, what's the term for almond tree? Shkediya.
Peter, we went to an old abandoned synagogue right outside of Sfat in the Birya forest.
Bir Am.
It might have been, yeah. It was.
Yes, yes.
In the dark, it was an amazing Tisha B'Av.
How I remember, yes, indeed, I do remember that so well, absolutely, because it's the only time I was there on Tisha B'Av. It was with you guys,
right?
So look at this pasuk. Remember, the Hebrew word for almond is shkediya. Again, for those who can handle the Hebrew, it's the same shin kuf dalid. We have it twice in 2 consecutive verses. Vayehi davar Adonai Eli, and God spoke to me, says Jeremiah, chapter 1, I think it's verse 7, verse 8, saying, Lamor, Ma'ata roeh Yirmiyahu. What do you see, Jeremiah? Va'omar, and I said, Makel shaked ani roeh. I see a makel, a staff of an almond tree. I see a wooden staff of an almond tree. Obviously metaphoric. There's some statement in here that God is conveying to Jeremiah. Vayomer Adonai Eli, and God said to me, Heitavta lirot. You're seeing well, Jeremiah. Ki shoked, there's the same word again, almond tree, shoked. Ki shoked ani, but now it's being used as a verb. I'm going to use it as an almond tree for now. Let's see if we can figure out what the verb means. Because I'm going to almond my words to make them happen. Meaning, I'm going to make them happen very soon. They're going to happen quickly. Just as the almond tree blossoms so magnificently weeks before you would expect it to happen, so says God to Jeremiah, I am going to make this impending disaster happen upon the Jewish people very, very soon. And it's interesting how Jeremiah uses the same word, same etymological word of Shin Kuf Daled, shaked, almond tree, as the metaphor for something happening before its time. It's going to happen very, very quickly. By the way, I don't think we have time to relate to it, but what's behind the almond tree in this picture? Can anybody tell? These are grapevines. There are many, many vineyards along the Derech HaAvot, because this is also a region of, I'm going to come back there later to this slide, 1 second, because this is also a region of growing grapes, and we'll come back to grapes shortly. But I want to take us to one final spot along the Derech HaAvot, and this is in a town along the road whose map I showed you at the beginning, called Neve Daniel. And again, if we look at the sign, this particular sign is only in Hebrew, but it's Even Mil Eser, milestone number 10. Now, we began our journey along this road a bit further back at milestone number 12. We're moving north up the road towards Jerusalem, and we are now at milestone number 10, Baderech HaAvot, on the pathway of the Patriarchs. And milestone number 10 happens to be at the highest point in this area. You see this watchtower in the background? It's called Mitzpor HaElef, or the 1,000-meter watch lookout. Let's see, I think I have a sign of that. Here we are. On the way out, here's the road which leads to Neve Daniel, the name of the town, Patriarchs Way, the road we're walking on, and the Mitzpor HaElef, the 1,000-meter lookout, which we're about to climb in Neve Daniel. So Neve Daniel has this 1,000-meter lookout. It is the highest spot in this entire area. We're in the Judean hills just south of Jerusalem. This is actually a tower which was developed by the JNF, built and sponsored by JNF. I kind of stopped here for a moment so you can see the symbol of JNF over here. It's not just trees. JNF is here. In Hebrew, it's Kakal, Keren Kayemet LiYisrael. We're going to climb the steps together. That's not where I wanted. I want to climb the steps. Here we go. Let's climb the steps to the watchtower and look at this magnificent view along the Derech HaAvot, along the pathway of the patriarchs. Again, a view that our patriarchs and matriarchs must have seen thousands of years ago. This is looking, I'm going to stop momentarily. This is looking east towards the Mediterranean. I was up there on a fairly hazy day a few weeks ago taking these pictures. It was late afternoon, it was cloudy. On a clear day from this spot, you can see the Mediterranean. You know what, I'm gonna come back to this in a minute. Let's see where we are on the map. Let's just give us a frame of reference. We're right over here. So the Mediterranean is only about 30 miles to our west. The Dead Sea is only about 14 miles to our east. We're only about 8 miles from Jerusalem, actually 10 Roman miles from Jerusalem to our north, and to the south is Hebron. So now, with the map in mind, let's go back to climb the tower once again. Where are we? We are back over here. Okay, is that it? No, that's not the one. Where are we? We're up here. That's it. Okay. So we're on top of the tower now. We're looking west towards the Mediterranean. On a clear day, you can actually see the tall buildings of Tel Aviv and Ashdod. And on a really clear day, you can just kind of make out the Mediterranean behind it. As we swing now towards the south, this is the town of Neve Daniel, looking towards the Hebron hills, into the Judean hills. To our south, way in the distance, the town of Hebron, about 8 or 10 miles south of us. Swinging around now, looking east. The town of Ephrat, where I live. Again, on a clear day, you could actually see the Dead Sea Valley and the hills of Jordan, 14 miles to our east. But you can see, at least rather clearly here, is a mountain, looks like a little bit of a volcano, and that's the man-made fortress of Herodion, built by King Herod in the later part of the Second Temple period, 1st century BCE, and completing our 360-degree swing, now looking up towards the north. Again, it's hazy, but you can get a sense of how magnificent this view is. That is the town, that is the city of Jerusalem. Again, you can't quite make out the buildings in the haze, but you can make out that this must be a rather spectacular view. And indeed, I've had many groups up here, and it's rather exciting to be along the pathway of the patriarchs and climb this tower at the end of our walk and see, oh my gosh, this is this magnificent view every way around. And again, perhaps to relate to the Torah readings that we are reading, whether you're doing the full cycle or triennial cycles, we're reading in some part the story of the patriarchs or matriarchs, and God telling Abraham. Didn't happen here, by the way. It happened at another spot with a spectacular view as good as this, but you can kind of picture God saying, look to your north, look to your south. Ufaratsta, Yama v'kedma, tzafona v'negba. It's a song I grew up on. Remember that actually? Ufaratsta, 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 Yama v'kedma, tzafona v'negba. To the west, to the east, to the north, to the south. Abraham, I am showing you the entire land. Lecha tenet ha'aretz hazot. To you I am giving this land. We get a magnificent sense of what it must have been like to look over the land in every direction if I were Abraham back then. And so that is the end of our little stroll along Derech HaAvot, except for something I would definitely do. Josh, if we do another trip together and we do this walk, we're going to end up here, because although walking along the ancient, let's spend a minute to relate to the modern. This is a friend of mine. We actually were across the street neighbors in Ephrat when we first moved to Ephrat. His name is Shraga. Shraga established vineyards in this area as there were in biblical times. And with the, I think the 500 acres now of vineyards that have been planted has created a renewed wine industry along the Derech HaAvot, along the pathway of the Patriarchs. And so I stopped by Shraga. The volume is a little bit low, but let's see if we can hear him as he greets us.
Peter, I don't think we can hear.
All right, he's saying, my name is Shraga. Hello, Peter. Happy to welcome you to the Gush Etzion Winery, where we have brought back the wine industry to this area as it existed in ancient times. He showed us a map of the area, which you see over here, of all the different kibbutzim and moshavim and individual owners who have plots of vineyards and are now contributing to the various wines which are being developed. Let's see if I can back this up a little bit. You see on the board behind Shraga, let's see, the various wines that are being produced here. Let's see if I can get to it. There we are. Cabernet, Shiraz, Chardonnay, whatever. But the point of my putting this in today is that, first of all, when we do this together, we're going to stop for lunch in the restaurant, which is behind Shraga's shoulders, but closed since last March, unfortunately. But his wine production is continuing. Maybe I can get a slightly better expression on his face. There we go. And we will have, if not a full lunch here, at least wine tasting together in the Gush Etzion Winery. But my point is that we here in the year 2020, walking along this road, are also part of this renewal. We, Bethel on your trips, Bethel in your Israel programming in Stamford, Connecticut, are all part of the amazing revival and renewal of the Jewish people as a people and in the land of Israel. And what I wanted to do today was just give you a little bit of a taste of that here along the Derech HaAvot. So that's the Tiyul. But I want to go one step further with your permission. And here, I'm going to do something rabbinic. Now, let me just see if I can get to the slide that I want. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. Well, you know what? I'll come back to this one in a minute. I'll show it to you first. I want to talk to you a little bit about a website that I've created called Israel is Beautiful. Back in May and June, when this didn't look like it was ending so fast, and I had already lost all of my summer work, a number of families, actually I had a couple celebrating their 60th anniversary that was coming to Israel for the first time in their lives. You can imagine they're both in their 80s. They have decided they're going to do this while they were still able to do it. Unfortunately, already by mid-April, it looked like it wasn't going to happen. They canceled in May. Obviously, they and the two synagogue groups I was supposed to be guiding, all of those obviously never happened as we got deeper into this COVID crisis. And so my son Donnie, whom some of you may know, and I and my son Avi, helping me with the technical stuff, and a fellow guide by the name of Ani Schiffmiller, decided to put together a website. And here I am going to do something which is very rabbinic, but Josh, you'll forgive me. I'm going to make an appeal. All right. I want to show you my website. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, here it is. So we created a website, and what I would like to do today, in addition to just enjoying being with you, and hopefully giving you a little bit of a taste of Israel on this Sunday, Sunday morning for you, Sunday evening for me. It's already close to 7 o'clock. It's close to 6:40, 7 o'clock. But also invite you to taste Israel in a meaningful way whenever you want through my website. And this is it. It's called Israel is Beautiful. Here's our logo. Israel is Beautiful. I'll come back to it in just a moment again. The website is very easy to remember. It's israelisbeautiful.com. It's a subscription website. I want to give you a taste of what the website includes. This is on the home page. I will let you and invite you and urge you to please look at it. It includes a new 10 to 15 minute video, which is loaded up to the site every Thursday, and it's there for members. There are now 12, we started September 1st, there are now 12 Tiyulim on the website. It includes what's called an Israel Discovery Zone, which is for families. We have a number of schools that are working with us now, doing the Israel Discovery pages in conjunction with the Tiyulim. But we've also heard from, the family, the 60-year-olds that I told you about. They wrote to me that they are downloading and printing up these, and they're enjoying the puzzles and the games, so that it's not just for kids, we've discovered. Let me show you the teaser, and then I want to talk a little bit about the site more and then invite you. It doesn't always work perfectly over the internet through Zoom. It's perfect if you just do it to the site directly. Let's hope it picks up. This is 2 minutes of another tiul, which is pre-recorded and on the site. Oops. Doing something super exciting. We are standing outside the Jaffa Gate of the Old City, and we're going to be walking on the ramparts, the walls of the Old City, the walls that were built by the Turks 500 years ago, and getting an amazing perspective both into the city and outside the city from the top of the walls. My name is Peter Abelow.
Hi, I'm Ani Schiffmiller.
Hi, I'm Donnie Abelow.
We are tour guides and Israel educators.
And each week, one of us, or one of our colleagues, will be presenting
As we take you with us on our journey around the country.
Israel is beautiful.
Come on along, we're going up. Okay, I'm ready. Here we go. How you doing? And here we are. And look at the spectacular view of Jerusalem. On the horizon, directly across from us, the King David Hotel on King David Street, and further over with the red roofs, the neighborhood of Yamin Moshe. Now I want you to... So, just a taste, gives you a sense of the quality that we're producing. Look at the ones we've had up already. From the beginning, let's work backwards. Walking the Ramparts, which is what you just saw. Jaffa Port is a tiul that's already been posted. Caesarea, which is still misspelled. I got to get the person who's running my site to correct it. I've had, we would have a tiul of Caesarea. The Jerusalem Promenade, something I did with Bethel a number of times. We have like a 14-minute overview of Jerusalem from the promenade. This is a work in nature. This is Masada at sunrise. We were on Masada. We didn't do it at sunrise. I didn't, I must admit. Ani did this one. But we have Masada at sunrise up already. Beit Sha'an by day, Beit Sha'an by night. A tiul in Beit Sha'an, both by day and by night. Nachal Prat is a stream, an oasis in the Judean desert. You see the variety. The one that we just did a few moments ago actually went up last week. The walk of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs. Let's see what's coming up. In Getty just went up last Thursday. This is going to be updated now. I'm doing something on the menorah for Hanukkah. And each week another one comes on. And these are all available now to members of the site. The idea was not that you have to come on. We're posting it at Thursday at 5. But you don't have to come on Thursday at 5. You can come on Sunday at 10 in the morning if you're on the site and view one of these tiulim. And you can unload. Let's see if I can get to. Oh, I'm going to have to log in, huh? Hold on. All right, I have to log in. So I can't get into it until I've logged in. But I want to show you the, let's see, I want to be in here. Not the management page. All right, so look at the activity sheets. Every tiul, and I believe, by the way, we have created something so unique. Any particular one? Josh, pick. Which one do you want to see? Neveit Tzedek.
How about Ein Gedi?
Ein Gedi. All right, this is the one that just went up this past Thursday night. All right, Israel Discovery Zone. A little bit about it. As much as Ein Gedi is a beloved hiking spot, here's references in the Bible where you have to look up verses and kind of connect it with the right source. A little bit of a puzzle. It's all in English, so it's very, very user-friendly for kids. It's fun. I'm still loading. Something about the synagogue floor, junked pages there.
Look what I'm holding up. I'm holding up one of the source books that we used to use on our trips with Peter. So
amazing. So the truth is, my idea for this really came from the source books originally. I brought somebody onto my staff. Her name is Tarly Taulo. Some of you might have seen her work on the internet. It's called Israel Scavengers. She does scavenger hunts in Jerusalem and around the country. Very, very creative, talented educator. She's developing these sheets for me every week to go along with the sites. And so it's very kid-friendly, very family-friendly. You see, you pick the Yeti one. Some of them have word searches and puzzle grids. Some of them are crossword puzzles, questions that are relevant to the site, things that families can do together, things that youth programs can work on. So I believe that we have created, and I just got to figure out how to get back to my homepage. Here we are. So here's the appeal part. First of all, we really believe that we would create something unique, meaning instead of long hour, hour and a half, or even 45-minute Tulin, they are 12 to, the longest one's 18 minutes, 12 to 18 minutes. Number two, family activities that go along with them. So this has been great for families. As I said, we have a number of Hebrew schools that are talking with us now about developing programming with their Hebrew schools, as everybody's kind of like realizing that this is longer than anybody really hoped it would be or anticipated it would be. But we have a lot of individual members that are coming on. And the other reason I'm appealing to you is because I'm going to admit something, because I'm talking to friends. I don't say this frequently. I'm retired, thank God. And I'm doing this really because I really want to bring Israel into people's hands. I am trying to help this site support 3 people who have no other income. There are 3 people now, they're not getting a full income from it. The site cannot ever make that much. But it's giving me the ability to put into people's hands who have been out of work since March, something to supplement their unemployment insurance for those that are lucky enough to be getting it. So on the one hand, I think I am bringing people an engaging, exciting, fun way to visit Israel with all sorts of different aspects of Israel, as you saw. They're all different from each other. This was one of my favorites, by the way. I love doing the Beit Shan at night. You know what? Should I share a trade secret with you?
sure.
I did Beit Shan at night totally without getting there. This was in the middle of the lockdown of September and October, and we were stuck for material because I couldn't get out and film. And so it's done totally in front of what's known as a green screen. I learned the way the weatherman gives the weather on the news. It's not in front of a map. It's in front of a total green screen, and the map is superimposed later. So when you see this one, I'm giving you a little bit of a secret. All the other ones you'll see I'm actually at the site. I mean, I did the filming of the ones we saw today, and it's on the Derech Avot trip. I could show that to you, but I'm coming there in a moment. You want to come up and say hello? Come on up and say hello, Debbie.
So Peter, as I recall, Beit Shan is the hottest place probably in the country, just about, and it's probably a lot cooler doing it in front of a green screen.
So actually, Ani did Beit Shan a day. She filmed this back in August. I'll give you a little bit of an idea here. Can I get into it this way? No. You know what? Let's see how I can do this. There we go. I'll give you a taster of the Beit Shan. Beit Tzedek in front.
Looks like fun too.
Okay, I'll be down in 2 minutes, Debbie. Okay, here's Beit Shan at night. First of all, Debbie's just come up to say hello. I'll put her on full screen in a minute.
Hi, everybody. Here we are back at Beit Shan, and as you notice, it's Beit Shan at night. And thanks to the creativity and innovation of the National Park Service, we're going to explore Beit Shan at night.
So I'm going to skip ahead past the basic introductory stuff.
That'll be a few moments from now as we approach the end of today's visit to Beit Shan. So now let's cut into Beit Shan and talk about some of the things that we saw last week, but now from a very different perspective. Particularly, I'm interested in the Beit Shan of its heyday during the Roman and the Byzantine periods. It's called the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th and the 6th centuries, which correspond to what we call the Talmudic period, a period of rabbinic creativity, a period of innovation. And the rabbis of this time period are following up on the writings of what's called the Mishnah, which was written.
All right, so that's your taster. I hope that many of you will want to see the rest of this as well as the other ones, because this is what our site is all about. It's about bringing people to Israel. There's clearly a Jewish flavor to it, a very broad Jewish flavor. At the same time, we've actually had the Christian groups that have come on. I urge you, now let me just come back to the, first of all, here's Debbie. Deb, say hello.
Hi, Debbie. Hi.
Hi.
Happy
Hi,
birthday.
everybody.
Happy birthday. You want to, happy birthday to Debbie.
It's okay.
Right. Happy birthday to Debbie.
Thank you
And
so
we don't
much.
want to keep Peter from you any longer.
Thank you, and everybody be healthy.
Anyway.
So I'm going to go back down in a minute, but I want to come back to this. So the site is actually a membership site, but the truth is it comes down to $4.50 a week. In other words, it's a full Tiyul and activity sheet. Oh, and I'm not going to go back to that, but for those who are interested, there's a live Zoom on Sunday nights with the guide. So there's a third thing. All of that is for $4.50 a week, which we've been told is like outrageously, unreasonably low. But yet, again, the 3-month package, which is comes down to $4.50 a week. We're also offering a 1-month package, which is repeatable, and we're offering a Hanukkah gift. People are looking what to give for Hanukkah. I'm going to send my grandchildren to Israel for $49. It's a lot cheaper than an El Al ticket or a United Airlines ticket, right? So the site now has the possibility of even giving a gift over to somebody. And again, I really invite you, and I want to emphasize 2 reasons. Number 2 was what I said before. It's helping me support people in Israel who are really desperate for the income. But number 1 is because of something I alluded to twice in my presentation. And that is what I believe is the magic that has enabled the Jewish people to hold on to our connection with a land 2,000 miles away and way back in our history throughout a 6,000 miles away throughout a 2,000-year diaspora. And that is somehow our rabbis, our leaders, our institutions, our rituals have all managed to capture the importance and centrality of Israel in our lives. Whether we're in Poland, which is where my mother grew up, and it was my grandparents who planted my love of Israel. They ended up in America, which is miraculous because they didn't end up where so many of their Polish Jewish compatriots did end up. They got to America in the 1920s, but they implanted in me the love of wanting to be here. They implanted in your rabbi the love of wanting to be in the rabbinate, and part of that is the love of Israel. And we spent a lot of time thinking about the name, and the name Israel is Beautiful is in part to counter. I'll just share it quickly, then I got to go down. I know when I come to America, it takes me a lot of willpower not to be bombarded by the anti-Israel sentiment, which is so prevalent. To remember that so much of it is unfair. We are not perfect. I believe Israel is beautiful. I believe we have a long way to go in many, many areas. Politically, religiously, I don't even start going there. But with it all, it is Israel. 72 years ago, when I was born, we did not have Israel. I was born in the last 2 years of the 2,000 years without a country of Israel. And we have, as this generation, the obligation to share that love and to make it better and to keep connected and to do everything we can. And I don't want to enter the political arena, but to do what we can with whatever politics that we have around us, to work with that politics and make Israel better. And to always remember that Israel is our second homeland. Maybe it's our first homeland. And part of the choice of the title, Israel is Beautiful, was for that. The opportunity to help people in America engage, to get your kids to engage. We've gotten pictures of families sitting at the computer together and saying, oh my God, our kids are so zoomed out. We didn't think they'd want to sit in front of a computer again. They love the 12 minutes of the Tiyul that you're showing. So please, first of all, Josh, thank you so much for this opportunity to share with Temple Bethel this evening. Everybody, you can unmute. Let's all just unmute and say hello and goodbye to each other. But I really implore everybody, please, a personal request, join me on this adventure. I think you'll love it. If you enjoyed tonight, if you've enjoyed being in Israel, if you feel connected, it is, I think, just a wonderful, unique way. I don't know of any other website that is doing this. And I'm going to urge you again, my experience in these meetings over the last couple of months, please do it tonight. Do it now, because tomorrow, it's a little bit less on your plate. Do it while the issue is hot in your head. IsraelIsBeautiful.com. If you like it, stay with it. If you don't like it, don't renew it. But join me in this adventure, and bring Israel into our lives, especially now as Hanukkah is coming. And we try so hard to find all these ways of continuing to make Israel alive in our lives. Israel is beautiful. It's been a lot of fun being with you. Just come on, say hello, everybody. Now, unmute.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, thank you.
Josh.
Hello there. Good to see
So
you, Peter.
before we all sign off, Peter, we're going to let you go, but I'd like to, if the rest of you could just stay with me for a couple of minutes, because maybe we can find ways. We had 50 people on this. We had 50 people on this Zoom, 50 devices. So I think there's a definite interest, and of course, that we feel a great deal of debt to all you've done for us, Peter, in the past, and that's why I was so anxious and excited to bring you aboard. Not just our congregational tours, but the tours with Camp Tevye and the camps in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, as well as individuals whom I've recommended over the years who've come with you. We all feel a real sense of connection, and I will be signing up, and maybe we'll even come back and do something as a group here.
So you know what? Why don't we talk later this evening? I will tell you what one synagogue in Jersey has decided to do, which has in effect bought them a membership for the synagogue.
Well, we are definitely going to talk about that, but I want to speak with people who are on this call afterwards too.
I'm going to run down to my family, everybody. I love seeing you all. It's been wonderful being with you this evening. Josh, thank you for being taking the initiative and making this happen. And love you all. Happy Hanukkah. And may we all be on the path ultimately to what we all dreamed, which was a world at peace, an Israel at peace, a world in good health. And I want to be able to see you back here and do that walk with you together here in good health, God willing, in the near future.
Thank you for bringing Israel closer to us. Take care, Peter.